Mill caused a drama at the hospital when I was sick, and forced me to leave so I can organize her 50th birthday. I, F27, have been married to my husband Jamie, M31, for 2 years. We've known each other for a long time because I'm very close friends with his sister, Jessie, F27. Jessie and I met in college and we shared the same dorm room during our first year, which is how I got introduced to Jamie. Jamie and I started dating when I was in my second year of college, and we got married 3 years into dating. Jessie was the one who introduced us, and she has never had a problem with me dating her brother, and eventually marrying him. She and I are still very close to this day, and my relationship with her is separate from my relationship with my husband, and vice versa. I don't involve her in our marital issues, and I don't involve Jamie in our friendship issues. I know these boundaries are hard to draw and maintain, and with such close bonds and close proximity to each other, there's a tendency for these boundaries to get blurred. But I try my hardest to ensure that none of that happens. I'm grateful that if it does happen, my friend and my husband are wise enough not to engage in it. I'm not saying that I've handled this dynamic perfectly. I'm sure I've made mistakes and slip-ups, but overall, both of these relationships are strong, and we deal with things very maturely. I'm very close with his family. Jessie and Jamie have a younger brother, Joey, M24. The three of them are quite close, and so am I with them. Jamie really loves his siblings and tries his best to look out for them because their dad left their mom when Joey was 16. To be honest, none of the kids blame their dad, let's call him Frank, because their mother is a literal nightmare to live with. The custody agreement for Joey was that he would live with his mother, with visitation from Frank. Joey wanted to go with Frank, but since Mill is the textbook definition of a narcissist, it would have been very exhausting for him to make the move. The siblings and Frank together decided that it was best if Joey stayed put for the next 2 years, and then he would be free to move out and do whatever he wanted. Jessie and Jamie went to meet him regularly, so it wasn't very difficult for Joey to get through those 2 years. He's been low contact with Mill ever since he left for college. Mill has had loud complaints about this for years and years, but I think being the youngest, Joey had to bear the brunt of Mill's craziness, and he's just done. Jamie and Jessie still put up appearances, to at least try to seem normal to the world and to Mill, but Joey just doesn't care. And I understand. When Jamie and Jessie were kids, their dad was always around. Plus, Jamie had the three of them. When Jamie went to college, Jessie had Frank, and she had Joey. But during the last 2 years of school, Joey had to face everything alone. No matter how much Jamie and Jessie traveled, the fact was that Joey was alone with Mill. And because of those 2 years, he says he's had a lifetime's worth of interaction with Mill, so he wants to steer clear of her. Jamie and Jessie feel very guilty about the entire situation with Joey, and I'm not saying they shouldn't. The kid was bound to have it rough with someone like Mill, so they cut him a lot of slack and do the damage control with Mill. I had a good relationship with Mill until the time I was only Jessie's friend and not Jamie's girlfriend. When Jessie went back home, I used to go with her sometimes. I used to hang out with Mill then, and things were really cool between us, so much so that I genuinely felt Jessie was exaggerating her antics to me. But I guess that's the true sign of a narcissist. Her act was so good that anyone could fall for it, and I did too. But the mask fell off the minute she found out that I was with Jamie and that I would probably be a permanent fixture in the family. No one could be good enough for her man. Yikes, I know. She had to find fault with everything I did from then on. Nothing was ever good enough. She always had to upstage me, always had to create a scene. Thankfully, Jamie is the kind of guy who always took a stand for me and shut down her nonsense, no questions asked. The final straw for him was when she turned up wearing white to our wedding. I had alarm bells ringing in my head, but before I could do anything, Jessie and Joey had sprung into action. Joey accidentally dropped a bottle full of red wine on her white dress, and Jessie ran to help out her poor mom change into new clothes, but we never saw her again at the ceremony. Jessie had promptly locked her inside her room to ensure she didn't start anything else. All of us got a lot of crap from her after that, but at least my wedding was saved. Jamie tore into her and told her that she had brought this upon herself because she had chosen to upstage the bride, and she should be thankful that we weren't cutting her off completely. That shut her up, and she behaved for a couple of months before starting new drama. So we generally steer clear of her. Things came to a head a couple of days ago. Jamie had to go on a work trip to Cali. It was very important for him, and his promotion depended on how well he could negotiate deals with his clients. So it was a high-stakes thing for him, and he was feeling very jittery. I was alone at home, and 2 days after he left, I fell sick. I don't know what caused it, but I was feeling extremely nauseous for a long time. Couple of hours later, I puked out a lot of stuff and was feeling really weak. I thought it was a normal stomach issue that would be okay in a day or two. But by the evening, I started feeling really sick. I drove to the hospital to get myself checked just in case something was wrong because I didn't have anyone at home to take care of me. The doctor said it was a case of severe food poisoning, and while it wasn't very serious or dangerous, I still needed to rest and eat mild food. When I told him that I had no one at home, he advised me to get admitted to the hospital for a week so that I could recover and not strain myself. At that point, I felt this was the best option available because I couldn't call my husband and screw up his work trip. Jessie was on a holiday with her boyfriend. Joey works out of state, and I'm estranged from my own family, so asking them to help was out of the question. I had a couple of other friends, but none I was so close to that I could ask them to tend to me for a week. I got myself admitted and let Jamie know the situation. I downplayed it because I knew he would get worried and insist on coming back home, which I just couldn't allow. 3 days into being admitted, I started feeling better. The doctor said it would take me 2 to 3 more days to get back to normal strength and energy levels, but he also felt I looked better. Somehow, word got around to Mill that I was sick and that I was now feeling better. She didn't bother to come and check in on me while I was sick, and to be honest, I expected this from her, which is why I hadn't asked her to help me out anyway. But as soon as she got to know that I was doing better, she came to the hospital and faked concern for a while. She just wouldn't leave. I had to beg her to leave me alone, but she kept on crying fake tears, saying things like, "I'm so sorry you're suffering so much, I hate to see you in pain, let me do something for you." She tried to act mad that I didn't reach out to her and said she would have helped and made me better in no time. I just said I didn't want to trouble her. It got so bad I was forced to tell her that I was actually fine and that she didn't have to worry about me. This was a rookie mistake, and the switch was instant. She said, "Oh, if you're feeling better, why are you still in the hospital, wasting my son's money? If you're fine, I need you to help plan my 50th birthday party and look at the arrangements." Her birthday was a week later, and all her kids were going to be there, along with her friends, so she wanted everything to be impeccable. She had no one else to help her except me. It's as though she was waiting for me to say that everything was fine so she could pounce on me and ask me to help out. I said that even though I was feeling better, there was no chance I was fit enough to help her out. She said I was just making excuses, and she expected me to get discharged the next day and help her, or she was uninviting me from the party. She gave me this stupid ultimatum and left, as if I cared about her idiotic party. I decided not to involve Jamie in the little drama that his mother caused because, again, his work was more important to me than my Mill's unhinged little tantrum. I did drop a text to Jessie, telling her what had happened, but I asked her not to say anything to Jamie. Things were normal after that. I didn't get discharged because Mill wanted it, but only when the doctor okayed me to leave, which was 3 days later. Jamie came back the next day, and he seemed to be in good spirits. He said his boss was happy with his work, and the negotiations went really well. So he looked hopeful about the promotion. I then told him what exactly had happened with my little stint at the hospital and my Mill's deranged demands. Jamie quietly listened to me narrate the entire incident and didn't say anything. He was very upset, rightfully so, that I didn't tell him and said that my health was more important than a stupid work trip. I told him it wasn't that serious and that I was fine. He asked me if I wanted him to talk to Mill regarding her treatment of me, but I said no. I told him I didn't want her to cause any more crap than she already had, and that I didn't care about her and her stupid opinions anyway. I was actually glad I wouldn't have to go to her party. I had thought that Jamie would sit the party out as well, but he was adamant about going. He told me he would be setting Mill straight once and for all because now she needed to be dealt with firmly. I honestly got a bit scared because I could see that he was furious, and I also knew that no matter what I said or did, he was going to do what he had planned. I just told him to be careful and try not to cause a scene at the party. The party was yesterday, and all hell has broken loose. I had a feeling Jamie wouldn't let my Mill's antics slide so easily, but I didn't know he would go all nuclear. I'm not complaining at all. I love that my husband is taking a stand for me, like he always has, and has put Mill to shame publicly. It just feels a little too amazing to be true if you ask me. So, as I mentioned above, my Mill had disinvited me from her party, thank God for that. I don't know what kind of reaction she wanted to get out of me. She had probably hoped that I would make a huge fuss about being excluded and beg her to invite me again, but none of that happened. So naturally, she was already pissy because she didn't get to have one of her stupid power trips with me. Jamie, Jessie, and Joey were all in on Jamie's plan, which I hadn't known, and I got the tea from them after the party. So initially, everything was great. The guests came, brought gifts, and the decor was amazing. Everything was basically crafted to be perfect. Mill was behaving very sweetly and didn't mention me even once. She was avoiding Jamie a little. I think she thought he would ask her why I hadn't been invited and she would have to answer and tell him about the little stunt she pulled at the hospital. To avoid that, I presume, she mostly stayed away. Jamie kept his cool throughout. He told me he tried his best to behave as if nothing was wrong, so as not to garner attention and make Mill suspicious. Finally, when the cake was being cut, the 3 kids got up to make a toast. Joey started off by thanking Mill for all that she had done for them over the years. He then added how Mill had forced him to take up part-time jobs after the divorce to contribute to living expenses, and it was only due to Jessie's intervention that she had stopped her antics. When he said that, there was an uncomfortable silence. Mill tried to laugh it off, but it was very awkward, and they were just getting started. Next, Jessie got up, and Mill literally froze in place. Everyone knows that Jessie is the most brutal and that her words cut so deep it's hard to recover from what she has to say. And Jessie didn't disappoint. She detailed so many instances from their childhood that Joey says it was hard to count. It was unbearable, and Mill started sobbing. A few people left with their gifts in disgust during this little expose. But Jessie was unstoppable. And she finally came to the hospital drama that Mill had started. She told the guests that the reason I wasn't at the party was because I had been uninvited. And the reason for that was that Mill couldn't digest the fact that her sick and hospitalized Dill was not in the shape or health to do the running around for her godforsaken party. There were so many gasps in the crowd according to them, and Jessie was smug from the dramatic effect that she got. Mill was hysterical by this point, yelling and screaming that she couldn't believe her own children would do this to her, especially on one of the most special days of her life. Cue Jamie. He went over to her, gave her water to drink, and asked her to calm down. She felt a little better, not knowing that this was all part of the setup that the three had laid for her. She said she knew only Jamie was the nice one of the lot and the others were rotten like their father. She was basically putting her foot in her mouth, but she didn't know that yet. When her little praise train for Jamie was over, Jamie handed her an envelope, saying it was a gift from him. Even I didn't know what this gift was before the incident was narrated to me. When Mill read the papers, she turned white. It was as though her eyes would pop out of her face. The papers were basically Jamie giving it to her in writing that he wouldn't be sending her any money to help her out, and neither would he be paying her mortgage every month. Essentially, she was on her own. The chaos that ensued was nothing short of hell. Mill started straight up yelling, screaming at the top of her lungs. She said Jamie couldn't do this to her and that she would sue him and all of them. How that would be of any help at all, no one knows. But the three of them left her mid-breakdown and went to a bar to chill and have drinks. She's been bombarding them with texts non-stop, starting from begging, to ranting, to saying literally batshit crazy things. No one is responding to her. I think they've finally had enough and know that cutting her out is in their best interests. And we have no idea at all what she's going to do because she's basically been surviving on handouts from her kids. Jamie pays the mortgage for her house, Jessie sends her an allowance for groceries and electricity, and Joey gives her some money for other utilities like gas. She claims that she works, and it's good for her if she does because if she doesn't, God alone knows what's going to happen, because all this money is going to stop. She keeps saying she'll apologize to me if that's what it takes to get things back to normal. She doesn't realize that what she did to me wasn't the reason why this blow-up happened. It was just the last straw on the camel's back, and everyone had had enough. This was their breaking point, and now there's no going back. I know them really well, Joey not so much, but I have a fair idea of how he thinks too. They're done, and good for them. I'm so proud of all three for finally putting an end to her toxicity. Had it been left to me, I would have done it years ago, but I never pushed for anything because, at the end of the day, she's their mother, and I wouldn't want to ruin that relationship, especially since I'm estranged from my mother. But this was entirely their call, and I know it had nothing to do with me, so at least I'm not guilty. Let's see what happens next because I know Mill isn't going to take this sitting down. She's going to come back because she has no other option, frankly. She was surviving, literally, because of her children, and without their help, she can't afford half the luxuries she presently does. It's going to be a fun ride from here on, and I can't wait to see her imminent downfall. I have my popcorn ready, things just need to get moving. Update 1. Oh shit has hit the fan. It's been a month since Mill's birthday, and everyone is still no contact with her. She, however, doesn't understand this because she's been trying every trick in the book to get the kids to talk to her again. She keeps on calling, texting, and even sending emails. Jamie said that they should all block her, but that would be too extreme of a step. She might need help and assistance for medical or health reasons, and we can't completely shut her out. That's the only reason why channels of communication are open with her, but she probably feels that if she's allowed to text, she'll one day be able to wear their resolve down and bring things back to normal, or rather, whatever her version of normal is. To her dismay, nobody is interested in keeping contact with her anymore. Moreover, all of us are certain that all this hue and cry isn't because she actually wants to talk to Jamie, Jessie, and Joey, but because she needs money. According to Joey's estimates, with the money they were giving her, she should have enough saved to last her a couple more months, but by then, she'd really need to either downsize or land a job that would pay her a lot. Added to this is the fact that no one really knows whether she actually works or not or has been lying to us all the way through. Last we knew, she was working a desk job at a small company that paid her some money, but that wasn't enough for survival, especially with the kind of luxury she counts as survival. So essentially, what she earns, supposedly, is her pocket money, and most of her essentials were taken care of by her kids. Now that consistent flow of money is going to stop, and stop suddenly and completely. So, the money is going to dry up sooner rather than later, and all these are desperate attempts to stop that from happening. Last week, Jessie introduced her partner, Finn, M29, to the family. We knew of him but hadn't met him. They've been dating for some time now, and he seems like a good guy, and Jessie is happy. All of us met at Frank's place, and it was a really nice time that the family spent with each other, quite unlike Mill's birthday or, in fact, any event which Her Majesty chooses to grace. This was so much more fun, chill, and it genuinely felt like we were hanging out with family. Jessie introducing Finn to Frank was more like a stamp that made the relationship serious, one that was inching towards marriage. This is just how it is in the family. Jamie and I both think Finn is going to pop the question in 2 to 3 months at max, and this is just their way of easing him into the family. And that was no issue at all because he's a very funny guy. Almost everyone liked him immediately. He knows about the entire deal with Mill and cracked a few subtle jokes at her expense. It was mean, but only slightly, and all of us laughed because come on, everyone knows how she is. But then the drama happened. She somehow, and nobody knows how, found out that Jesse had a partner that everyone in the family had met. By everyone, I mean the immediate family: Jamie, Joey, Frank, and me. And only Mill was the one who had no idea who the guy was, what he did, and what their plans for the future were. And she has been both inconsolable and uncontrollable since then. She's back to texting us 200 texts a day, telling us that we've wronged her and that her only daughter has left her alone. She says she can't believe that we would exclude her from something as important as this and that all her children are ungrateful brats. I don't understand how she expects anyone to even want to make amends if this is what she keeps saying on a regular basis. To everyone's relief, she doesn't know who Jesse's boyfriend is, and we want to keep it that way because otherwise, she's going to look him up on social media and bombard him with texts as well. It's not Finn's mess right now, at least, and we want to keep him away from her nonsense for as long as we can. Jessie is so done with Mill, she says she won't even invite her to the wedding. I personally think that won't be possible, and she's going to barge in, make an entry, and cause a scene anyway, but I understand Jessie's sentiments. She tried to upstage me at my wedding, and she sure as hell would want to upstage Jessie at hers. For my wedding, she was mother of the groom and therefore needed special treatment. For Jessie's, she's going to be mother of the bride and would make the day all about herself instead of the couple. So it's in everyone's best interest that she's kept in the dark, but that's going to be very difficult. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I hope this is my final update because I don't want any more drama, but with the way my Mill is, we can never really say. Update 2, Jessie got engaged. It took Finn only a month to pop the question, and I think Jessie was anticipating it. We're all so happy for them. Finn already feels like family, and we're all in regular touch. He hangs out with Joey a lot, they share similar interests, so it's great. We've been getting closer to Frank too, and this has been possible largely because we don't have Mill's looming presence over our heads. She doesn't know yet that her only daughter is engaged, and we're trying to keep everything very low-key for now so as not to garner attention. Jessie wants the wedding to happen soon, and we're all diving headfirst into the planning. By all, I mean me, and a few of Jessie's other friends. On the Mill front, her texts have stopped coming as of now. I think she's finally reconciled to the fact that she's been cut off completely, and begging in front of her kids isn't going to give her anything, so she should rather just focus on improving her living situation. She's put up the house for rent and is probably using the rent to pay off her mortgage. At least I hope that's what she's doing because if she's blowing up the rent, then she's an absolute ass, and nobody can save her. She's moved in with her sister for the time being, but I'm sure that's a temporary arrangement as well. No one can stand being near her for long periods of time. I genuinely wonder how Frank did it for all these years. The house is still in her name, though. If she manages to pay the mortgage, then the house stays in her possession, which, to be honest, I'm quite salty about. She could afford it only because Jamie funded her for years, and now she gets to behave like an asshole and still walk away with a house. Seems quite unfair to me, but it is what it is, and I can't help it. But as long as she stays away and doesn't cause any more problems, she can have the house to herself. The peace of mind of the family is much more important than that house anyway. Update 3, Mill found out about Jessie's engagement. Word somehow got to her sister, and now she knows as well. We tried to be as discreet as possible, but news like this has a way of spreading, I guess. But Jessie is sick and tired of her nonsense now. She's already stressed about all the wedding planning, and she can't handle Mill on top of this. So the minute that Mill sent her a scathing text about keeping poor old mum in the dark, Jessie called her up and tore a new one into her. She told Mill in no uncertain terms that the omission on her part was deliberate because she didn't want Mill to be a part of the celebrations. And she also told her that she wouldn't be invited to the wedding, whenever it happens. Jessie said she was sick of her antics, and she knew that Mill would try to pull off a stunt like she had done during my wedding. Jessie was furious, and it was as though she was unloading years of pent-up anger. I don't think she even allowed Mill to get in a single word, not that I blame her. Her victim complex can make anyone want to puke. I think the reality check was much needed, and if Mill has even a shred of self-respect, she's going to stay away. Jessie was downright rude, and that was required because there's no other way to make Mill understand that we're exhausted, and we don't want her near us. Jessie has blocked her and asked us to deal with any emergency with Mill, and that she will unblock her only after the wedding. I think the Mill situation is finally over, and we can all look forward to the next chapter for the family.